All right, all right, all right. Aloha Friday, everybody. Thank you for being with me this Friday. I have a special guest. Ruth is going to be discussing a very important topic today as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month together. We're going to be talking about branding, which is her specialty, and messaging and PR. But more importantly, how are you structuring your ERGs, folks? How are you structuring those for the benefit of your people? Ruth, welcome to Aloha Friday Live. It is so good to be with you.
Thank you, Enrique. I'm super excited to be here. I'm coming out of a branding seminar that I gave this morning, and I'm super energized by the community because it really, personal branding is so important to so many people. The feedback we get time and time is like, how did I not do this before? How did I not hear about this before? So thank you for opening your platform for this very important conversation.
Well, you're very welcome. And I think it's very important for leaders to understand that this is an element of your profession that you have to harness earlier than later because you lose time, right? You lose time. There's a lot of time wasted when you are not capitalizing on your ability to brand yourself, to brand your product, to brand your company. These are things that are so integral in our success. And if you're not doing that, then how successful are you, right? And so we have a great person to talk about that here. But before we get into all of the great conversation around branding and development of ERGs within companies, Ruth, tell us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. I am a PR communications leader with 20 years of experience helping brand connect authentically to the audiences that matter. Need to help brands in particular connect to the Hispanic community through their storytelling, their branding, and their communication strategy. So really super excited. This is right up my alley and a topic that I'm super passionate about because I think that our advancement, not just as professionals, entrepreneurs, or business owners, but also as part of corporate America, really depends and lies on the power of our personal brand.
Absolutely. Now, I tell you that one of the things that we never really consider is our story. A lot of times we're telling other people's stories, right? Oh, we saw this person do this. When you're growing up in leadership, oh, you're always looking at somebody else's story instead of saying, hold up a minute, the one living this life is me. And if there's any story I can tell, it's my own. And so a lot of leaders are encouraged not to talk about themselves too much and focus on work or focus on the strategy or focus on the mission of somebody else. And what we do is that we get sold out to the stories that we tell about others, and then we start forgetting about the power that is in our story. So as we're developing this conversation, I want to start there. When you talk to people, when you talk to industry leaders, to companies, and things of the like, why is it that they don't focus on their story?
Oftentimes, let's get a step back. I think there
Okay.
is not a clear understanding of what a personal brand is. And just so that we're all clear, personal brand is about your perceived value. Your perceived value and the relevance that value has in the mindsets, in the top of minds of the people that are decision makers in your success, in your career, in your business. So personal brand is really about your value proposition and how the value that people perceived in that. So oftentimes, yes, you have to do the work, but that promotion is not just all about what you deserve and all the hard work you did, but is how valuable your leaders consider you to be. the capital you're getting for that business. Yes, it's about the great business plan you have, the awesome ROI that you have projected. But what really pushes people forward and makes that leap of faith a confident step forward is their belief in your perceived value, in your value proposition, and what you can deliver for them, for the brand, for the community, for the company as a whole. So people often think that they are married to their employers, and they are not. You are not married to them. You are not owned by them. You work with them. So, and when they forget that differentiation, they forget about themselves, and they start telling the corporate story, which is very valuable and has its place and its role. The people should also own their own story. What is it that you stand for on your own? If everything were to change tomorrow, how do people perceive you? And is that how you want to be perceived? And what are you doing actively to bridge that gap, right? The gap between how people think you are and how you want to be perceived. Because it is aligned to your goals, to your purpose as a person, because it's an expression of your qualifications, of your authenticity, of your key differentiators as a professional, as a business owner. So I think the reason why we don't hone into our own story is because we don't have a clear concept of what that can do for us. And we often forget, and I was just telling some of the people in the audience at my seminar, is we forget that we are experts at our own story. If anything else, you own your story and you own your insight. And it's about sharing that. It's not that complicated. It is really about understanding what is the need that you fulfill, in the places you are. And how do you do uniquely that?
Absolutely. Now, you're speaking that particular over that particular topic, and I was reminded about. And for folks, if you think that in the military there's not such a thing as personal branding, there is. And I'll give you an example. So I was up for promotion. I got promoted. I made E7, the rank of chief in the Navy, and I made the rank. But then it was a point where we all had to put our evaluation to go from E6 to E7. You have to submit an evaluation because you got to close out that last rank. So I submitted my evaluation, and the master chief, the E9, he calls me into his office, and he says, "Hey, Enrique, I just read your evaluation for closing out your E6. And what's all this?" And on paper, I had put everything I had done. And he says, "When did this happen?" I said, "Well, I got dates and stuff." He goes, You mean to tell me you've been doing all of this and we didn't even know?" I was like, "Well, I'm the kind of guy that don't let your right hand know what your left hand's doing. I do what I do, and that's it." And he goes, No, that's not it." He goes, he throws the paper, he throws it up in the air, and he goes, "This might as well be nothing because we had a board to rank you all, and you fell dead last because no one could talk about what you did. And here I get this paper, and it's contradictory to what we believe your perceived value was." And he was upset because now he's got to go back and try to calculate this thing again, right? So that is in the military. So imagine, and that population is 1% of a sample of America.
Yes.
So imagine in America, like at large, how important it is to allow people to have an accurate perception of your value. And a lot of times we don't do that, but for the reasons that you mentioned, is that we don't even know what that value looks like, or what that means, or anything of the kind. So it is very important, folks, just like Ruth has said, to get to that first point, right? And then move on to, hey, what does that look like? So a short, story there about how even in the military, personal branding is important, and you have to own it. Now, you just gave a seminar, and I know that you got all this thing running through your head, right? And what I wanted to track from the seminar, folks, you need to go and sign up for the next seminar if she has one, because you're going to get a lot of value. So, what's the next step after I've recognized the fact that, hey, there is a thing called personal branding? Hey, this is a value thing. And how do I get to the next step from, now to try to tell my story?
I think that the first step is always the audit. You need to figure out what people think. What is their perception of you at that point? And you don't go necessarily like interviewing them formally, but you want to get a sense of what your colleagues, what superiors, the people reporting to you. I mean, the people that have some sort of like relationship with you within work, the people that are on the board, on boards with you, right? You need to know what they see in you, what they think about you. And sometimes they could be great sources of information as to where your superpower is. Sometimes you ask a colleague, like, why do you always come to me? And, the question there is why? Why am I the person you chose for that project? And they're going to tell you something like, oh, because you're great. But then keep going. And it says, but what is it that makes me great for that? And they are going to go, in my case, I remember asking this question to my best friend, and she said, I don't know, Ruth, you always tell me what I need to hear. I present to you whatever the case might be of a situation I'm going through, and you always tell me what I need to hear. So I understood right there and then that my superpower is communications. But on top of that, I'm a sense maker. I help people distill complex information into digestible bites and understand where they are situated so that they can be empowered to make decisions. That is, my superpower. And it's part of what people need to go through. Sort of audit your surroundings, but audit also yourself online. Google yourself, see what is out there about you, and then define what that superpower is and build a purpose around that. Okay, I want to use a superpower of communication to advance and enhance the relevance and the brand of the Hispanic community, to connect them authentically, to brand so that we can deliver impact. I mean, that is more or less what my purpose is. It's connected to the community, it's connected to advancing and advocating for the community, and it's talking to brands about our importance and our relevance so that they see it and they are willing to connect and eager to connect with us for their own gains, but also to deliver impact for our community. And I use communications as my vehicle to make all that magic happen. So I think that understanding that purpose and then defining what makes you unique in that purpose, right? In the pursuit of that purpose. Well, there are many things that makes us unique, whether it's our heritage, our identity, or lived experiences, different things that we do in particular ways. In addition to our superpower, there has to be other things that make you uniquely qualified. Remember, having a personal brand that is succeeding is about carving a space in somebody's mind as their favorite person to go to for, right? As a go-to expert for X, Y, and Z. So you are trying to fulfill a need. You are trying to demonstrate how you do that and how uniquely qualified you are to do that. And why, in the process of doing that, you need to be building a narrative that delivers the proof points of what you're saying you can do, right? And that do particularly well, and that you have a uniquely, set of skills to do it very well. So you need to deliver all of that through your story. And it's then when you start crafting sort of your brand story, and your idea of who you are and what you deliver, because that storytelling is what's going to confirm to people that you are who you say you are, and you can deliver what you say you can deliver in the way you can. It is a matter of confirmation. In this society that we're living nowadays, this is an imperative. People are bombarded with information. If they Google you, they could find all sort of things that may or may not be a reflection of you, and may not even be a reflection of you or connected to you. Maybe even somebody else with the same name. You need to dissipate all that uncertainty, dissipate all that misinformation, and really own your story and build the image you want them to have. You need to take control of your story, and finding your purpose, defining your differentiation, and then building your brand story around that, and having set of stories from your life and stories, the story you just told us, it just speaks about you, about being humble, about working hard, about being in the military, about reflecting, being a lifelong learner. All that were things you told me with the story you just mentioned. So
And
that
that's powerful.
owning that storytelling power to define who we are and our value in the world is key.
And that's also powerful because I don't know how many of you listening right now or watching this replay or this in replay have gotten to the point where you could say, this is who I am, like this, boom, 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 boom. And this is how I apply that, in different, and this is how I could do that for you. That is the way to navigate your number one, your self-worth. And you have to be there. Don't let anyone identify or define your self-worth. It's easy. They will do it. People will define your self-worth, right? And sometimes they may be real low on that, right at it, or sometimes even exceed that. But own that, as Ruth had just said, because in owning that, you get to dictate how that story is told. I can't tell you. If you Google me, you're gonna find a whole bunch of stuff, right? But none of it that's contrary, thank the Lord, to my brand. And so, because I've owned that since I was in the military, and I knew the power of branding from that moment that I shared, but then I continued to develop that wherever I went. You know how people say, well, your story or your reputation precedes you, right? Don't let something bad precede you, because that's it. And wherever I went, I was always told, oh no, we heard a lot about you. Oh no, they told us about you. Oh, and that is the type of um, precedence you want to set for your branding. So great and powerful comments there. Now, as we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, there is a huge disconnect, I believe, in because of, and I attribute it to humility. Yeah.
Mhm.
As I was invisible to my leadership at one moment in time, uh, there are a lot of Hispanics, Latinos that are living a very invisible life because we are raised with a level of humility that I honor and I'm thankful for. But at the same token, it detracts from the ability to put yourself out there. And a lot of people shy away from it. I no, la luz no, pa mí no, pa mí, and they'll be like, no, not me, no, let somebody else. And I understand humility, but it's almost subservient to the point where you are under everybody, and that is not what I condone, nor nor do I ask people to do that, because I believe it's unhealthy.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because this is my big sort of concern when it comes to the Latino community. I feel that we have a branding problem. our perceived value is really not what we stand for. It's not really a real value. We have a problem connecting, with the decision making people, with the leaders, with the people that matter, and sort of communicating our real value. The perception of us as a community and individually is typically not the real one. Because yeah, we are raised with like calladita te ves más bonita, work hard, look down, just keep going. God is going to provide, everything is going to happen. And yes, God provides and things happen, but you need to own your value. And there's nothing wrong with owning yourself. And I think that as a community, and this is why I'm so committed to this work, and I go everywhere in nonprofits and chambers of commerce and organizations that invite me to speak, because I feel that as a community, we need to work on our branding, what is our value proposition. And I feel that starting with each individual is actually going to make a difference. If we all start branding ourselves differently, presenting ourselves differently, we are going to change the perception of our community, because each of us is an ambassador. So as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, my invitation is for Latinos and Hispanics across America to really look at the value and the power of personal brand for their own advancement, for their own career and business success, and also as a contribution to changing the perception of our community and really elevating the Latino community across the country, and really giving us the significance and the space and the light and the spotlight that we deserve. So I do agree, when you don't own your story, somebody will own it, somebody will tell it for you, and it may not be in the terms you want. So Latinos in particular need to feel empowered to own their own story, to own their own value. We don't belong to anybody else. We belong to ourselves, and we have that responsibility with ourselves and with our community.
Yeah, absolutely. No one can talk about Ponce like I can, right? Yo soy de Ponce, Puerto Rico, Los Leones. There's a sense of pride there. There's a connection that somebody from Mayagüez is not going to have, right? It's just one of those things. And we're kind of like structured like in Spain, municipalities, right? Little towns, the little church in the middle. I know in Mexico, it's kind of like that. Everything's centered around the church, and then everything grew from there. But if I am going to tell a story about myself, it has to include my heritage, because that's the bulk of my life, right? My work, my service time are snippets of my life that came and gone, but I'm Puerto Rican all my life, right? So I have to own that and be able to represent that in a way where both I am proud of where I came from, and I am also and my people are proud of, because I'm out there representing, another Ponceño that is one of the prominent figures in both military and in Puerto Rico, was the last or the former senior enlisted of the military. He was the Joint Chief of Staff senior enlisted. That is powerful, right?
Yes.
But it all started in Puerto Rico for him, right? Along with the Air Force. So, you have to own these things, and you have to identify where you fit in it and how much you gonna, really own. And a lot of the thing is that a lot of folks don't want to own certain parts of their story, or they think that those certain parts, you just cast out or you block, and I'll tell you that if I have gained anything from my ability to tell my story, my personal branding, it is coupled with my failures. And so, how do you, and let's talk about failures, because a lot of people shy away from throwing those things out there, but how do you capture failure or, the non-successful moments in life to add to your story and still tell a good one where the value is seen?
Well, first, let's just start with a key concept. So the values remain, but your personal brand will evolve with life. And that in itself is an expression of turns and tribulations and and triumphs and things, that successes and failures, because it is a journey, right? And it's the expression of your journey, right? It's strategically, intentionally crafted to deliver your value and your value proposition. But so failure is a natural part. And in a world where like AI can do almost everything nowadays, even though it's just sort of starting the AI revolution, authenticity and the humanity in each of us is really part of what is going to set us apart. And that includes our identity and any other part of your life that feels authentically part of your promise, of what you bring to the table. And in so many cases, failures and lessons learned are part of that. And they have to be part of that, because above everything, you have to be credible. You have to be trustworthy. And a story that is perfectly crafted where nobody ever makes a mistake is not credible. It's not relatable. At the end, the story is the conduit that is going to build an emotional connection with the person who is making the decisions that matter. So part of making that emotional connection is delivering stories that have, a struggle, that have a way how you overcome, that really present you as human, and that explains your why, because those are the things that are going to trigger the decision making like ability in the person receiving the message. Because when you see the story of somebody and you see their struggle and you understand why, we all grew up watching El Chavo del Ocho, right? And we were all vested in that character. We felt bad when he felt bad. We felt happy when he felt. That's what you want to build, that type of connection. So you need to be real and you need to be authentic, and failure needs to be part of that, because it's through that struggle that you really going to show how you overcome, how you continue to learn, how you continue to succeed. And all that is going to be ultimately connected to your perceived value in whatever context your story is presenting it.
Yes, that's amazing. And I immediately thought of no contaban con mi astucia, right? Because
Literal. Yes.
he would in El Chavo, he would have this figure, right? This super self, right? And he was like the champion because he came from a very, and even in his role, he was subservient, right? Everybody walked over him and things like that. El tonto, right? The guy that didn't know too much or whatever, but then he had this super ego, right? All these ultra ego of a super person. And he tried to tell the story of, hey, I might be simple in your sight, but I'm also a super guy. I'm a Superman, right?
And there is wisdom in me, regardless of the simplicity and the even laughable, philosophy that I represent. There is wisdom in what I'm saying. There is value.
Yep, definitely. And so we all have that, folks. We all have similar, kind of like chapters in our book. They may have different tales, and they may say something different, but we all have struggles. We all have success. We all have journeys. We all have life as long as we're living here. And as long as we're living, these stories have to evolve if you want something out of your life and something out of it in a world that is always asking, the why for you, right? It's always asking for the why. Now, I'm going to transition to this ERG part because I think this is so important. I'm going to encourage everyone viewing, everyone listening, that if you have a branding specific challenge or you want to have a speaker talk about branding, connect with Ruth, send her a request, make sure that she can cover all your answers in those segments. That she has several things that she produces, and I encourage you all to go and get educated in that piece. But Ruth, I wanted to talk about, and I did put your post as a link in the comments for everybody, so you can go into the comments here on LinkedIn, or you can go in the chat and you'll see that link to this particular post. But we had a conversation, and some ideas sparked from that. You created a post around how to basically position yourself to be the best supportive ERG that you could have. And from that conversation, I remember saying, "Hey, I love ERGs. I get to speak to ERGs as a speaker. It's cool. I get to speak to the veteran ERGs as well. But I had a sense that these groups uh, initially were formed for a particular thing, a support, but then after speaking and seeing the complement of the folks that were represented on those online events, that it had become a group and separated. And then the company was not filling it with life. They were just happy that they was created and okay, get together, rah, 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 but there was no real commitment in part from the company to continue to breathe life into these ERGs and expand them. So that's where you kind of took it from there. So tell us a little bit around that particular post, and then we'll continue the conversation.
So, as a Latina, we love community. We love being connected to people. We love making friends anywhere. So, I have always found that employee resource groups are a great way to connect. It's also a great way to build your brand within corporate America. A lot of the many great opportunities I have been afforded have been because of sponsors or people that I have met through ERG involvement. So they've always been a key piece of my employee experience. And as I help brands navigate internal communications, DEI communications, I also counsel and make recommendations and provide support as it pertains to ERG, structure, messaging, you name it. And, the more I have, especially throughout our conversation, I've always had the idea that they are kind of stagnant. I only see them as brand ambassadors of the community they represent, which within corporate America, which is a great role to have. But in a divisive world, in a world where words like DEI have been so polarized and are apt for discussion each and every day, our conversation led me to think, really, what is next? How are we going to build community inside these corporations in a matter that is going to be able to survive, right? The storm of the public opinion discussions and this divisiveness and the political conversation, because there are people in corporate America working that need support, that need network, that need advocacy, that need to develop. But we also, when we look at corporations, we also are responsible for building culture, for really creating an ecosystem that is going to allow each employee to really succeed, to achieve their personal and professional goals, to find enlightenment and development, and to find opportunities. So the idea that came out of our conversation was, why not we see a change in corporate America and start by reinventing or redefining ERGs as not so much solely dedicated or defined by a demographic or a particular group they support, like whether it's veteran ERG, disability, Latinos, Black and African Americans. Why, if we open our mindsets beyond demographics and really look at psychographics and try to bring people together around interests, passions, and other intersectionalities that actually are very much common to them, regardless of what race or background they have, regardless of what disability status or veteran status they have. I feel that is a much more authentic connection. And it's a greater opportunity, a much better opportunity to bring unity and to create a culture where you really foster innovation, because you have diverse groups bringing together by their love and affinity towards something that is aligned to business goals. If you are let's just say in CPG, and you produce pet food, right, as part of your products, why don't you have a pet parent ERG and bring everybody that has a passion and it has a pet baby, right, together to talk about the struggles? You can use the group as a focus group. It will be an ERG, will connect people from different backgrounds, different walks of life. They will have events. It's still tied to your business because that's what you do. I mean, it will certainly change corporate culture because it will bring people together by finding commonalities in all of them and really leveraging that connection. Because it's always the same that people say, when you look at each other, we're so different. And when you think about it, we have so much in common. Well, we are all humans. Believe me, we have a lot in common. And there are a lot of affinities that can bring us together and create much more solid and productive and efficient networks of people brought together by their passion, by their interest. And these are the things that people, you won't have to be, this is the last chance to join an ERG. People will be, inspired, eager to join because it's speaking to them. It's speaking to what matters to them. So that was a little bit of how that article on LinkedIn came about, with the idea of reimagining ERGs at the center of corporate culture, as places that really help bring employees together and sort of blur the lines a little bit in the division over demographics and really talk about opportunity development and advocacy for everybody, and really tap into inclusivity for growth as a strategy.
Absolutely. Now, sometimes I've thought, right, to myself, that these groups, they come about because leadership is unwilling to have that be part of the main culture, right? So this is what I mean, right? If I am not let's say, an assertive leader, and I say, well, I don't want to grow in that area, explore how assertive I can be. Let me get a leader to run assertiveness in my company. Well, now I've just created an offshoot of something I really want but can't do. And sometimes, and I need companies to consider this, because here nowadays, there's been such I would say, an attack on DEI versus, I mean, I knew there was one time like, we got the DEI group, and rah, company A's got DEI. and then now that same company A is like, October 1st, DEI is going to be out of everything. And so who spoke there? And so a lot of times I see a lot of groups are developed because the company is not willing to do it as a natural extension of their culture. It is always, you guys can get together. Yeah, we don't mind. Yeah, go ahead. And it's never a true development from within the company. And so, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that, I feel that the evolution of the DEI terminology, first of all, is much more about the terms than about the real impact work or programs. More importantly, quite frankly, and this is my very personal opinion, I feel this is the time of truth for many brands that we're pretending to care. Now people are going to show whether or not they really truly care, and whether that is a practice and part of their DNA, or it was just, a little bit of lip service. But as I think about that, I'm also thinking from, the business leader mindset and saying, okay, what is the alternative? What is the solution that I can recommend as a trusted advisor to C-suite leaders? And then the idea of the ERG as extended, going beyond demographics into psychographics, and being really a neuralgic center for communion across divisions and across groups, based on the affinity and love towards something in particular that they all have in common was, a very attractive idea. And I still believe that we need to look into this. We need to start talking about how do we reimagine corporate culture to think more broadly about about them as the community we serve. In corporate America, we don't have like, oh, we the Latinos sit here and the veterans sit there. I mean, inside the corporate culture, that's not what is happening. Everybody's in an office, everybody's had a cubicle, and it's not being segregated in any way. And the way in the community is the same. I don't go to just one shop over the other. You know what I mean? I don't sit next to one neighbor over another. We are all meshed in and we are all united and being brought together, but things that we share, which are all affinities, rather than necessarily demographics or disability or veteran status. So why not take that thinking and really build a culture that really reflects the community companies are serving inside the company by using the same principles? So I still think that it's a valid concept to explore. I'm not saying that this is the holy grail for a corporate culture, but I think it is something to consider.
Yeah, definitely. And we all, and you mentioned this earlier, we are human. We have more in common than what you think, or you allow others to tell you, because sometimes the narrative comes from outside of us. It's not developed inside of us. Somebody told us something, and then we say, you know what, that sounds about right. And then we went with it. Come on, folks, we know how that goes. But in reality, I can have no time on a farm and go to a farmer and say, I'm not a farmer, but I grow some, herbs and bananas and stuff in my yard. It's not a farm. I'm not going to say, I'm a farmer, but I love how you can take seed, put it in some great soil, and get crops like you don't know. And a conversation will start. We could be from two different states, two different continents, but when you find that point where you both can meet, amazing things happen, right? And so, yeah.
That common point is always the beginning of a meaningful connection. And when people are connected and emotionally vested in you, they're not going to see you as the other, which is the problem that we have now, with the DEI discussion. There is all like us versus them. And if we scrap all that and go back to, okay, company values, and let's all align ourselves on that, and then find affinities among ourselves that bring us together, those connections are going to be real, are going to be authentic, and are going to be meaningful, driving culture forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, can you imagine you come into work and say, hey, everything goes, and all the groups go away and everything, yada, 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 right? We're back to square one, let's just say. But it happens to be Hispanic American, that we're talking about Hispanic heritage, right? Oh, so September 15th. And you get an email from the CEO. Hey, I want to take this time to celebrate all the Hispanics and Latinos that I've ever met in my life. This is what has happened because of it. Boom, 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 boom. So I know that America only gives you a month, but I want to celebrate you all year long. And I want to give you the just due for the impact Latinos and Hispanics have had on my life. Do you understand the impact that a simple email like that would have on not only your internal community, but on how now your community perceives you?
As long as it's not just lip service, and it's tied to impact and real investment and real commitment.
And that's the difference. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a difference between sending a general, we celebrate you, and adding the actual impact to your life because of it, right? And so that's what I'm trying to say. There's a big difference between somebody that would say, just because, it's National Twin Day, whatever. Tomorrow be National Donut Day, whatever it might be, right?
Yes.
Just to get on the bandwagon of celebrating, or actually telling you the impact that that
Yes.
community has had on you. And so you want to thank, right?
That is amazing. I mean, that would be such an important moment, because with that, that person is validating an entire, group of the workforce, an entire group beyond demographics. Because also, and I like to always point at this when talking about, we're talking about multidimensional per people, right? And bringing ERGs in different ways and communicating with employees, really focus on impact and real commitment. But when you talk about the Latino community in that conversation, leaders have to understand that we are not a race, we are an ethnicity, we are a culture. We come in all shapes and forms and colors and sizes and backgrounds and religious affiliations. We really are as complex, as multidimensional, as rich, as vibrant as America is. And we are the future of this country. So connecting authentically with us as part of the workforce and as part of the broader community, it is really a very important step in solidifying their leadership and really working on their leadership longevity.
Yeah, and a lot of leaders don't understand that sometimes their lack of getting educated, their lack of vulnerability, sometimes their lack of considering others outside of the dollar, right? Because I understand the from the business aspect, you have to have a revenue increasing mindset and strategy. You got to have that. Your tactics and your operations have to roll around that in order for you to stay a business. So I understand that. But your business, if everybody left your company tomorrow, will be done. So who's what? This is like the egg and the chicken,
And
right?
you know what? On both ends, we are leading. 70% of the workforce growth in America is Latino. So if you want to have your employees happy, you need to be catering to the Latino community. And then the Latino GDP is 3.7 trillion, and it continues to grow. It is growing at a 2.5 faster than any other, only surpassed by China. At this point, we're growing faster than India. Our economy, if we were a country, would be bigger than France, than Canada's. So I think that understanding that Latinos are on both sides of the equation, we are a business imperative and we're a corporate culture imperative. We are the employees and we are the consumers. And leaders need to understand that. And we need to do a better job of branding ourselves that way.
Well, if you can throw stats like that, you'll be good. Just make sure that you got them right. But that's a fact. The fact is, from the leader's perspective, and I'll just be very broad here. It doesn't matter what community it is that you are serving and employing. Okay, whatever it is, that's where your mind's got to be. Wherever it is that's generating your funds, both from the buyer perspective or from the worker's perspective, your mind has to be on that, because if not, what you'll lose is what we call social currency, and that's hard to come back to get back. You can lose money, you can get money, but you lose social currency, you're in a world of hurt, because people talk. and,
Yes.
and they like to spread. Matter of fact, today my daughter was saying, "Hey, this happened to the hotel. This person, yada yada." I said, "Did you get on Better Business Bureau? Did you get on their Yelp? Did you get on their Google? Did you get?" The moment you start talking about how this negatively impacted you, now they got a problem on their hands. They got to fix, right? And so you have to be able to stand up for yourself, have the appropriate amount of information to be able to say, hey, this is where we stand, folks. and be able to validate yourself, right? I'm all for it, and I know I was like that for a long time. Somebody else needed to validate me. I don't need that today, right? So, because I can validate myself. But not everybody's there. So consider that if you are an employer, if you are a leader, the power is within the people, and you have to, I'm not going to say cater, you have to be attentive there. That's what you got to do.
You have to be strategic. Like if you really want results, you have to make them part of your strategy. And I dropped the Latino GDP report on the private chat so that you can share it with everybody, because those numbers are part of our branding and our storytelling as Latinos. And we have to own them, because that's the thing. Going back to branding, we need to own our personal stories, but also our stories as our story as a community, and our really hone into our power and our contributions and our impact. In addition to that, I think an important part of that exercise is also feeling empowered to have impact on the businesses that are not paying attention. And, I'm not necessarily talking about boycotting or anything at all. I believe in business. I'm a capitalist. I'm a business supporter. But as a community, there are brands you can prefer over others. Based on what they are doing for your community, and based on their real commitment and investment they're making in your community and how much they understand you. So I think we need to actually play that role of embracing our own brand, embracing our own power, our own superpower, really elevating our storytelling and feeling empowered to make decisions that force people to pay attention.
Absolutely. And the power of choice, folks, if you are a consumer, you get to choose. And that's the beauty of it, right? You don't have to, by any virtue or extent of the word, you don't have to support anything that you don't want. And if you feel is contrary to what you believe should be just, then don't, right? And so that is one of the issues that I think corporations kind of gloss over, which is the power of the people as a consumer. And you don't have to, buy into anything that you don't feel comfortable in. Now, so folks, we spoke about branding. We spoke about how to position yourself, how to find your voice, your story, and how to tell it well. We spoke about ERGs, all of that, how to position yourself as a company to employ better and enlarge the community around ERGs, because there are more than just the people that are there. There are family members, there are supporters, there are champions, there are those that will come alongside you, right, and walk this walk. So there's a lot of opportunities for growth in that area. Now, Ruth, I wanted to give an opportunity for you to share something that those listening and viewing can support you in. Do you have anything coming up? Where can they go to find that information, and how can they connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. As a Latino community advocate, I am very active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the place to find me. You will find my thought leadership there. You will find my information, you will be able to connect with me. I do have brand seminars coming up. I don't have the dates just yet, mostly in the DFW area. This is a personal commitment to elevating my community. So if you have a venue, if you have an opportunity, if you have a way in which I can support that, please reach out, and I'll be happy to go across the country to take this message. I do believe that rebranding our community and really owning the power of our brand is going to change things for our community and for ourselves. So unlock the power of your personal brand, reach out, and let's talk.
Absolutely. Well, folks, I want to thank you all for joining us on this Aloha Friday Live, and I hope that you enjoyed and were informed with the conversation we had with Ruth today. Ruth, thank you so much for being with me. And folks, I want to remind everybody that our podcast, DTLW Podcast, has surpassed 700 subscribers on YouTube, and I want to thank you for that. We are now on the hunt for 800. If you wouldn't mind going to YouTube at DTLW Podcast and joining us there, we're streaming this live on that channel. Do us a favor and subscribe. It won't cost you anything, but would bless us as well. When we get to 800, we'll be giving out a authored signed book, a leadership book by one of our guests. And so that's always available once we get the 100 milestone every time we do. I also want to thank take this time to thank Parade Deck for streaming us live on their TV network. Parade Deck is a military veteran and military spouse creator platform, and they have a lot of great shows on there. But thank you, Parade Deck, for not only sponsoring us, but showing us some love and putting our stuff out there. Folks, I want to thank you for being with us. Aloha, mahalo for being with us. Ruth, bless you. And we'll see each other next Friday on another Aloha Friday Live, talking about leadership and something else. Mahalo, everybody.
Thank you.